They thought they were cutting my bonus. They had no idea I'd already cut the cord. I walked into my boss's office with a half-stale cupcake from the grocery store. It was his birthday. At least, according to the calendar I was forced to keep updated for the team. I'd even added balloons to the break room last year. But this time, I came with that sad little cupcake and a smile I didn't mean. He was already halfway into cutting my commission when I arrived, grinning like we were old pals. "Just working out a few last-minute adjustments," he said, sliding a printout of my quarterly numbers across his desk like it was a party favor. I looked down. 61% of the company's revenue. That was me, my pipeline, my clients. But I was only being credited for 41%. "Looks like there were some shared credits," he said casually, tapping the line item that listed Chad. "Yes, that Chad, next to my biggest account." I blinked. "Yes, shared?" "Well, he did attend the pitch meeting with you," he said, as if showing up 5 minutes late with a Red Bull in hand somehow made him a co-author of my 12-month relationship-building process. Anyway, payroll's still reconciling a few discrepancies, and legal is cleaning up the language in the new comp model. I stared at him, the new comp model that I hadn't seen. The discrepancies they were suddenly discovering now that bonuses were due. I nodded slowly. "I'm sure it'll work itself out." He smiled, like that settled it. I walked out, calm, back to my desk, back past the company slogan on the wall, "Where integrity meets innovation," and sat down, fired off 2 emails, one to my lawyer, one to the CEO of that same client they had tried to split credit on. The loophole? I'd found it 3 months ago, buried in the master contract. If I'm not the assigned account rep, renewal freezes. No account rep, no invoice. No invoice, no Q1 revenue. They just shot themselves in the foot. It wasn't just a bonus they were about to lose. It was the whole account, and I wasn't going to lift a single finger to stop it. They tried to erase my name off the revenue. Now, I erased them off their biggest contract. I walked in late that Monday. No coffee, no hello, no pretense. Just a flash drive in my pocket and a quiet smirk I couldn't shake. Most of the office was in that in-between mode, half heads down, half Slack scrolling. I could feel a few glances as I made my way past the kitchen, like maybe someone had already heard something. Maybe someone had guessed. I didn't care. I logged in at 9:56. 10 minutes later, all hell broke loose. At 10:07 a.m., the client, my client, sent out a company-wide email. Not to just their internal team, to everyone. Full list serve. Subject line, change in vendor partnership. Effective immediately. Body, we will not be renewing with Taro and Grayson. No explanation, no soft landing. Just a blunt declaration that the firm's biggest account, the one that brought in over a third of Q4's numbers, was walking. Gone. It took less than 2 minutes for Slack to implode. Ping after ping, channel after channel. The number accounts thread lit up first, then number sales strategy, then leadership announcements, though oddly, that one went suspiciously silent after someone posted, "Wait, is this the Renfield account?" My manager went gray dot. Legal posted a crying emoji. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Across the room, Chad turned his chair with the kind of speed that only comes from guilt. His mouth was open slightly, eyes darting, like he was trying to remember what his last email to the client had even said. He looked like a deer who just realized the headlights weren't approval. They were judgment. I opened Slack, typed exactly 14 words. Commissions are how you retain talent, not threaten it. Hit send, close Slack. By 10:12, that message was deleted. By 10:15, someone from HR posted, "Let's all keep things professional today." By 10:19, I was no longer invited to the weekly revenue forecast call. They didn't know the half of it, because that clause I negotiated last year, the one buried in the renewal packet no one bothered to read, kicked in the second they reassigned the account. That's what the contract said. Named account representative must be retained throughout renewal cycle. Reassignment without client consent results in hold on invoicing until resolved. They reassigned me without notice. Called it departmental streamlining. Thought they were clever. So I sent an email to the client 2 weeks ago. Let them know the reassignment violated our agreement. Just a courtesy, of course. Turns out the client appreciated the heads up. Said it confirmed what they'd already suspected. Said they'd been thinking about a change of scenery anyway. So I gave them one. What no one at Taro and Grayson knew was that I'd already opened a new LLC small office. Registered it under a name that sounded boutique, specialized, but neutral enough to fly under the radar. I'd already built out the CRM. I'd already onboarded a finance guy I poached from a competitor who hated tarot more than I did. I even bought the .sucks domain version of their website, just in case. I wasn't launching a rebellion. I was planting an escape route. And now, the first domino had fallen. Not with a bang, but with a bulletproof email from the client they couldn't afford to lose. By lunch, leadership scheduled an all-hands for 4 p.m. I didn't RSVP. Let them sweat. Let them wonder. They tried to write me out of their success story, so I wrote them out of the contract. I didn't just leave with a plan, I left with leverage. They deleted my Slack message within minutes. No explanation, no acknowledgement, just poof, like it never happened. So I posted it again, this time with a screenshot of my commission report, the one where Chad's name mysteriously appeared next to my account, and a time-stamped email where I asked for clarification. Dated 3 weeks ago. No reply. I posted that too. 2 minutes later, my email stopped working. 3 after that, my keycard didn't unlock the glass door to the main floor. I tried it twice, like an idiot. Third time, it gave a red flash and a mechanical click that might as well have been someone whispering, "We're scared." HR showed up by the elevator, not the director, not even someone from legal, just Maddie, the junior coordinator who once asked me to look over her resume on my lunch break. The same girl who gave me a Christmas mug that said, "World's okayest colleague." She held it like she thought it was a compliment. Now she stood there, trying not to make eye contact, clipboard in hand, red in the face. "Hey," she said softly. They asked me to escort you out." I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Instead, I reached into my tote and handed her a manila folder. My formal resignation, time-stamped and signed. Attached, legal proof of my newly formed agency, articles of incorporation, tax ID, domain registration, plus a bullet-pointed list of former clients who had already begun old exploratory calls with me, marked confidential, just for effect. "Oh," she said, blinking down at the paperwork. "I made your job easier," I said, smiling. She stepped aside without a word as I walked past. I took my time, one last stroll through the floor, past the cubicles with their fake plants and mugs that said things like "rise and grind" and "let's circle back," past the empty glass-walled war room where they used to trap me for 12-person brainstorms that only needed 2 people and a Google Doc. I glanced over at the sales pod. Chad was gone, probably hiding in the break room or stress puking in the third-floor restroom. I paused by my desk, picked up the only thing worth keeping, a framed thank-you note from a client I once pulled out of a PR nightmare. They sent cookies. Barford sent me a 2% bonus. I slid the frame into my tote, zipped it shut, and turned toward the elevator. "Wait," someone said behind me. I didn't stop, because they weren't saying it for me. They were saying it for themselves, for the discomfort, for the realization, for the sudden awareness that this company wasn't stable. It was a machine held together with duct tape and burned out talent. I stepped onto the elevator. Doors slid shut. By the time I hit the lobby, Slack was probably flooded again. HR scrambling, leadership spiraling. But I didn't need to see it. I already knew what was coming, because they thought they were walking me out. But I was walking away, with leverage they didn't even know existed. And they still had no idea who else I'd already taken with me. They underestimated loyalty. I'd spent years earning it while they played politics. By Tuesday morning, I had 37 messages. Some were short. Some were 3-paragraph apologies masked as curiosity. Some were from people I hadn't heard from in years, like Nate from sales, who once took credit for a pitch I built, or Emma from partnerships who'd texted me, "You still here?" like we were in on the same joke. And then there were the ones that mattered. The first was from a client. Subject, "Off the record, we'd love to hear your strategy, without the filters." Then Miguel from analytics. "I'm done taking heat for other people's lies. Where can I send my resume?" Then Armin from strategy, then Lexi from copy, then 3 clients, all saying the same thing. "We didn't know you were the one holding it all together." They knew now. It turns out, when you spend 5 years solving other people's emergencies and remembering clients' dogs' names and kids' college timelines, while Chad's busy reposting Gary V quotes and tagging local influencers, people notice. Maybe not out loud, maybe not on the quarterly town halls, but they remember. And when things break, they remember fast. By Wednesday night, I had 4 clients verbally committing to follow me, not maybe or keep me posted, actual commitments. As in, send me the new SOW as soon as your LLC is ready. It wasn't just cracks in the dam anymore, it was rupture. By Thursday, my new firm had a working website, a Slack channel with 12 members, a client deck built in Figma, a designer in Serbia working for $12 an hour who turned our name into a logo that looked like it belonged on a billboard. I didn't sleep much. But it wasn't stress. It was adrenaline. And it hit me. This was the real difference between them and me. They built an office with buzzwords and foosball tables. I built trust, quietly, over years, by delivering when it mattered, by not using people's work to build my personal brand. They mistook that for silence, for complacency. But loyalty isn't loud, it's earned, and once it's broken, it doesn't come back. By the time Friday rolled around, I had something else. My first paycheck from a client who followed me out the door. It wasn't big, not yet, but it cleared. And it came with a note. Thank you for being the only person who ever told us the truth. I read that line 3 times before filing the payment. Because they thought they owned the accounts. They forgot who built the relationships. I had the truth. Now the public had it too. Friday morning started quiet. Too quiet. Then my phone buzzed. Once, twice, then non-stop. A client forwarded me a tweet. Just 3 words in the subject line. You seeing this? It was a thread, anonymous at first, but the receipts spoke for themselves. How to lose your agency's soul in 90 days. Each tweet was a hit, one by one. A redacted screenshot of my commission being slashed from 61% to 41%. A Slack thread with my name scrubbed off a client account like it was a clerical error. My deleted Slack message, reposted with the caption, "They didn't want to retain talent. They wanted to own it." An email from HR. "We're still working through things. Please be patient with the new structure." A screenshot of Chad thanking the team for the Renfield renewal, dated 2 days before the client pulled out. By tweet number 11, there was a link to my agency's website. Live, sharp, unapologetic. I didn't post the thread, but I knew exactly who did. Probably Miguel, maybe Lexi, or all of them together. By noon, the thread had gone viral. Chad, poor Chad, apparently cried in the copy room. Someone texted me a photo, eyes red, hoodie up, pacing like the printer owed him an explanation. The comments were a war zone. This is what happens when leadership thinks power is retention. She left and took half the agency with her. Bro, imagine being Chad right now. The CEO's assistant messaged me on LinkedIn. If you're hiring, I'd love to talk. I didn't respond, not yet. At 2:14 p.m., a bike courier showed up at my new office. No return address. Just a thick envelope, sealed like a wedding invite. Inside, a check for $38,200 and a note scribbled in pencil like an afterthought. Hope this resolves everything. DT. It didn't, because they still didn't get it. I didn't leave for a payout. I left because they forgot I was the one holding it all together. I stared at the check for a long time, then slipped it back into the envelope and tossed it in the bottom drawer. I never cashed it, because something better was coming. A few weeks earlier, I'd made a quiet call to a friend of a friend, the same guy who handled Regional Business Summit logistics. He owed me a favor, told me the booth next to Barford's had pulled out last minute. I bought it on the spot. Then I bought the naming rights to Barford's booth. Every sign, every badge, every branded coaster, all updated with the words, "This space sponsored by agency. Ask us what happened." They paid for the floor space. I paid for the spotlight. And by Monday, it was ours. The joke wasn't the pay stub. The joke was that they thought I needed them. The summit was held in the usual place, a cavernous downtown convention hall full of faux plants, overpriced coffee, and sad-looking swag bags. I arrived 2 hours early, not because I had to, but because I wanted to watch them set up the wreckage. Taro and Grayson's name was still on the booth map, printed 2 months ago. But the physical space, the prime corner slot they used to dominate with glossy roll-up banners and piped-in hype music, now belonged to me. Our setup was simple, a matte black booth, no colors, no gimmicks, just one stark message in clean white block text across the backdrop. Remember who built your brand. We handed out flyers disguised as pay stubs. each one printed with a fake employee name, 0 commission, and a bright red stamp. Under review. People laughed, some looked confused, but most got it, especially the ones who'd read the Twitter thread. By mid-morning, our booth was already buzzing. Not flashy, not crowded, but steady. Curious faces leaned in. Whispers passed behind tote bags. Someone nudged their colleague and whispered, "That's her." At 11:03 a.m., Chad walked by. He didn't say a word, just glanced, then glanced again. I caught the subtle twitch in his eye, like he'd just bit into tinfoil. His jaw clenched, his skin flushed pink. He kept walking, but he turned his badge around as he passed. Classic. Then, at 11:47, my old boss showed up. He didn't walk in, he arrived, full suit, shoulders tight, corporate armor polished to a shine. He looked right at me across the aisle, and froze. I was laughing with the vice president of operations from our former top-tier client. She was holding one of our mock pay stubs and actually cackling, like tears in her eyes kinda laughing. I handed her another one. That's when he saw it. He stepped forward, cautiously, like he thought there might be cameras. "Did you do this?" he asked. I smiled. "What, the booth or the pay stubs?" He didn't answer. His eyes flicked to the VP. She smiled sweetly and said, "Don't worry, we already signed with her firm. This is just the victory lap." He blinked like she'd slapped him. Then I handed him a pay stub. His hand twitched. He didn't take it, so I laid it gently on the table between us. That's when someone behind us, I don't know who, snapped the photo. The expression on his face was everything. Tight-lipped, pale. That perfect moment when a man realizes he lost something he thought he owned. By Sunday, that photo was everywhere. Caption: "When you forget to pay him, but he remembers everything." It was a meme within hours. By Monday, our agency's website crashed from the traffic spike. We got 6 new client inquiries in one day. 2 of them had been on Barford's roster just weeks before. They thought I needed their booth. Turns out, their booth needed me. And that VP I was laughing with? She signed a full retainer by 3 p.m. that day. All Barford had left was their name on the summit map. And by next year, I was planning to buy that too. They tried to start a smear campaign, but I had the script, the actors, and the receipts. Monday morning, gray skies, fresh espresso, inbox clean, until it wasn't. At 8:22 a.m., I got an email from a burner address. No message, just a .zip file named projectphoenix.zip. I opened it on a separate machine, VPN routed through Switzerland. Old habits die hard. Inside, 53 files, slide decks, Slack exports, email, drafts a PR strategy presentation titled Narrative Reclamation, Managing Fallout Post-Departure. It was all about me. The project name was Phoenix. I guess they thought that was subtle, or poetic, or threatening. They were planning to control the narrative. The documents called me volatile, emotionally erratic, and, my personal favorite, an unstable influence whose loyalty was always conditional. Conditional? Conditional on what? Not being erased from the books? Not having my work reassigned to Chad the Human GIF? One slide had a photo of me, smiling at a company picnic. Underneath it, pattern of emotional withdrawal post-client conflict. Perceived burnout behavior. Suggest reframing as stepping away to focus on self. I scrolled through the file, more curious than angry. They were building a story, a neat, sanitized version of why I left. They had no idea I already owned the real version, and that they just mailed me their rough draft. I didn't go nuclear, not yet. Instead, I passed the folder to my team, Miguel, Lexi, Arman. I said, "Read it. Then delete it from your heads." We weren't going public, not today. We were going strategic. I had no intention of screaming into the void. Instead, we whispered to the right people. One client, lunch at a time. One side conversation. One, "Hey, you might want to keep an eye on the PR they're putting together." Just saying. It was all quiet pressure, whispered truth, no posts, no drama, just carefully placed weight on a very brittle pipe. By Wednesday, I saw the first tremor. Kim from PR, the one Barford had tried to muzzle 6 months earlier, posted a single tweet. "Funny how the same execs who preach mental health will call you unstable the moment you stop playing along." Nothing else, no tags, no names, but everyone who mattered knew what it was about. The tweet got retweeted over 20,000 times. I sent her flowers. On Thursday, the real blow landed. Wired magazine reached out. Apparently, the leak made its way to one of their senior tech reporters, someone who'd already been sniffing around Barford after that viral Twitter thread. The email was short. "We've seen what they tried. Want to tell your side?" I didn't answer right away. I took a walk, down to the pier, bought a $5 coffee I didn't need, and watched the fog lift off the water. Then I wrote back, "Let's talk." Barford wanted a resurrection. They didn't realize I already had the ashes, and the match. They wanted to frame me as unstable. Instead, I framed their collapse. The article dropped on a Friday morning, 6:01 a.m. sharp. Title: The Ghost in the Pipeline Byline, Wired Magazine, Investigative Tech Series. Header image: an abstract of an agency's org chart crumbling like old concrete. In the first 24 hours, it got over 500,000 views. It opened with a question. What happens when a company's most valuable pipeline isn't a tool, but a person, and that person walks? Then it started cutting. Burford's internal retaliation strategy was laid bare. Slide decks, Slack messages, email threads. They quoted directly from Project Phoenix, including the part where they called me emotionally erratic and suggested I be framed as too unstable to lead. Spoiler alert, I dumped Chad. Twice. Wired had the full story. Every time-stamped receipt. Every buried commission. The vanish Slack message. The bonus discrepancy. The anonymous leak. They even pulled quotes from my old coworkers. People who couldn't speak up then, but were very ready to speak up now. Some gave names, some didn't. One described the leadership team as a slow-motion train wreck, riding on unpaid labor and vibes. The piece ended with my voice. They didn't lose me because I snapped. They lost me because they assumed I'd stay quiet. I read it 3 times, then once out loud. By 10 a.m., it was trending on LinkedIn. By noon, the agency world was dissecting every paragraph. Recruiters messaged me. CEOs followed me. A design lead from Paris cold-pitched a brand refresh for free. And then came the best part. That same afternoon, I walked into Barford's office one last time. Not as an employee, not as a disgruntled ex, as a consultant. See, one of their oldest clients, a legacy finance account that hadn't followed me during the exodus, reached out after the Wired article. They wanted an external audit, just to see where the cracks are, they said. So, there I was, in their boardroom, with my team. Chad didn't make eye contact. My ex-boss didn't speak until slide 5. No one cracked a smile until the final slide. Don't burn bridges you forgot I helped you build. I ended the meeting there, clean, professional. Absolute silence in the room. On the way out, the client pulled me aside and said, "We'll be transferring early. This place doesn't feel safe anymore." By Monday, 2 more clients followed. They wanted to kill my credibility. All they did was confirm my value. They told the world I was unstable. The world looked back and said, or maybe she just outgrew you. They thought they cut my bonus. Instead, I built a company. 3 weeks after the Wired piece dropped, we were running out of chairs. We had 15 staff, 7 full-time clients, a 6-month wait list, and one very long Google Doc titled "Referrals We Can't Take Yet, but Maybe Later." Our Slack was chaos. Good chaos. Lexi was rewriting onboarding decks in between client calls. Armand was mapping out a predictive pricing tool we didn't ask for, but desperately needed. Miguel was working 3 monitors like he was hacking into a CIA server. And our designer in Serbia, he upgraded from $12 an hour to $18, and we gave him a new MacBook with the company card. I didn't sleep much, but this time, it wasn't from stress. It was from momentum. We built fast. We learned faster. And no one asked permission to try things. They just did. Clients kept showing up with the same question. What would you do if no one second-guessed you? We told them the truth. We didn't have layers. We didn't have bureaucracy. We had fire. And for the first time, people wanted that more than Polish. And Barford? They were still trying to rewrite their About page for the 5th time in a week. They sent out an organizational restructuring press release on a Tuesday. It got 5 likes on LinkedIn and 1 comment, "Best of luck. You'll need it." On Friday, I closed a contract with one of their last remaining mid-tier clients. They signed a 3-month trial, then extended to 12 within the week. Their CMO messaged me after our first pitch. Why didn't we just go with you in the first place? I didn't answer that. I didn't need to. The day we signed that deal, a courier delivered our final office shipment. It was Barford's old conference table, the same one I'd sat at for 4 years, pitching campaigns they sold as theirs. The same one where they told me, Chad just has more presence and you're not being erased, we're just restructuring credits. I bought it at auction for $140 and a petty sense of satisfaction. Still had the scratches from my old heels where I'd nervously tapped under the table before big pitches. We set it up in the center of our open floor plan. Same scratches, new stories. Every team member got a $2,100 bonus that week. Not because we hit a milestone, just because we could. I called it our anti-commission, because I never wanted anyone in that room to wonder who they were working for, or why their name mattered. That table used to represent everything they took from me. Now it represented what we'd built, together. They had legacy, we had proof, and legacy never built anything as fast as rage, joy, and one clean break.